All right, guys. So we are talking about storytelling. We've just spit out a bunch of words that are awesome, right? And so there are going to be days where we're feeling those really awesome words, and there are going to be days where we're feeling some shitty words. And the good news is storytelling works for both of them, right? Like they work, these posts work because they're real and they're authentic and people can relate to them. Not everybody can relate to them, but the people that you're trying to talk to and the people that are put in front of you are going to relate to them, right? How many of you, do a little show of hands here because I'm a teacher and I'm obnoxious. How many of you have had someone comment or reach out to you directly saying, man, it's like you totally get me, or it's like you were totally talking to me? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people have had people say that they're inspiring? Okay. What about motivating? Right? We get a lot of the motivating, we get a lot of the inspiring, but not always do we hear that, man, it's like you were talking to me. It's like you were hitting my soul, right? Like those are words that I could say. I'm relating to this so much. And it's just simple things that we can do in our posts to make that feeling come out for people. So, first and foremost, when we're storytelling, we always have to start out with it being a real story, right? It's got to be real. It's got to be authentic to us, or else it's just going to look like BS, sound like BS. And honestly, if you're telling lies, it's going to get hard to remember what you were telling and it's going to come back to get you someday, right? So being real and authentic, and that doesn't mean releasing all the raw and vulnerable right away, but it's just speaking that truth that you've got, right? Because it's yours, it's your story. And the second thing is you want to make sure that you're focusing on a small piece or a pain point, right? Because you and mom, I want you to jump into here and there because you've read Kendra's book, you've been reading the storytelling book, but I'm not going in any particular order, but things to include in your story. You're making sure that it's a small point and you're starting out with that small point right then and there at the beginning of your text. Okay. When you're thinking about these things that matter to you, whether it be in your physical transformation, your emotional, if maybe this is something that eventually becomes like a full-time career for people, it always had to start somewhere, right? So when I think of the stories that I've read that even haven't been relatable to me but make me feel something, they always start out with that pain point or that small part that that person had. An example, Erin Mayer posted about how, because she does Beachbody full time, and she was talking about how, these are the moments I missed for so long. Boom, one sentence. And it's a picture of her and her son sitting at the kitchen table. And she just had that one sentence. And I was like, what? What did you miss for so long? Why? Right? Like a sentence to kind of catch the attention of people that hits that point that you're trying to make in the story, right? Kind of like a topic sentence if we're going there, right? Then she proceeded to tell us about how when she was managing at an Olive Garden, she missed holidays, she missed weekends, she missed bedtime, she missed stories, she missed all these things because of the job that she had that was limiting her and her potential and her growth and her family and all these things. And then she got into the point where when she took the leap and she became a coach, and it took a lot of hard work and time, but now she's got this life that she's built and da 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 da, right? But that first sentence made me want to keep going. So really thinking about how you can take the parts of you, break them down into teeny tiny pieces, and relay that into a message for other people. Okay. Also thinking about good photos that could go with these posts. Okay. That doesn't mean the most pretty. In the picture that I'm thinking of that she posted about today, she had her hair in like a high, messy bun. And she was like in a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. And she's like leaning sideways like this with a cup of coffee and her kids in pajamas. And like it wasn't the most like filtered, blown out, best outfit ever. It was just a picture that caught your attention, right? Because it's a mom, it's her kid, right? And you're going to want to make sure that it invokes that sort of feeling of real, right? It's not going to be a picture where you're like standing by a tree, like, I'm a coach. Yeah. Like those pictures are totally valid. Like I've got the one with me with the 50 balloons for moments like that. Like those are super valid because you're not telling the story, you're sharing something awesome that happened. Like you're not telling that piece of your story. Um, but really being aware of that opening line or two and being aware of what you're trying to tell them, right? Because if you're starting out too vague, people are just going to scroll right past. Okay. And you want to be able to connect with people. If you're not connecting with people, then what are we really doing on social media? Like people, you don't see people posting, their bologna sandwich anymore. You don't see people sharing every detail of their day anymore, right? Like on social media. I look back in my 12 years ago on Facebook and it's like, just got back from the gym. What a hard day. And I'm like, actually, who cares? But that's what people did on Facebook 12 years ago. They posted like body combat class. Bye, everyone. Like that's what we did. That's what we did on Facebook, but it's not the same. And I think we can take lessons and evolve from it too. So, what else do we want to add for the group about storytelling? What are some things that you've noticed that stick out to you when you look at good stories, things you've read about, right? Like things that you're noticing and invoking, like when you're reading people's stories or writing them. Marcia, go ahead.
A couple things I wanted to share from the book. This is the book. Can you guys see that okay? It's been very eye-opening for me, lots of aha moments. But the basic framework of a good story, I thought was, she said a story, of course, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But she says the best way to think of them is as a normal, an explosion, and a new normal. So the explosion, the middle, is an aha moment or a low or pain point, something that made you realize something needed to change. And then the explosion came, the change. So that's kind of the framework of a story. But something that I'm reading about right now, and I haven't quite finished it, I'm almost done, but she suggested asking yourselves a lot of questions. The biggest problem with most people is they don't believe they have a story to tell. And I've been guilty of saying the same thing over and over again. And so this part of the book has really reached out to me. But she said, ask yourself questions, make a list of things like, when have you had to be resourceful in order to survive? What was the worst day in the history of your business, or the worst day in the history of your life? Or when have you made a customer cry? When have you stopped a customer from crying? What's your proudest moment in your work or your business or your personal life? Ask yourself those kinds of questions and respond to them, and then go back to them often to see if what you're trying to tell that particular day or week is found in one of these stories. She said there'll be a lot of things come up in your memory, and it might not be anything that pertains to health and fitness. It might just be, like a painful moment and how you resolve that, and and then you can feed in what feeling your newfound health or your newfound fitness or your newfound mindset has helped to correct all that. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this book, and I've taken a lot of notes that I want to share with you guys. I didn't unfortunately have them all compiled for this meeting because I didn't know we were going to do it until the last minute, but I will be sharing in the future about that.
Yes, please. And can you take some pictures of those questions just to kind of get our brain flowing and thinking about it? It kind of made me think of like Eric Worre is really big, and I put it in the chat, the feel, felt, found. Like I used to feel, and then I found, feel, found, hold on, feel, found, wait, now I'm getting confused. I used to, and then I found, and now that's basically what it is. I used to feel, and then I found, and it's how I felt, because that's what it is.
I want to share one more thing, and this is, she talks about components of a story, and the major components of a story are identifiable characters. So that can be you or a person you've helped or anything like that. So identifiable characters, authentic emotions. So something that person was going through at the time that you began that they reached out, which is your moment, the moment. So you've got identifiable characters, your authentic emotions, a moment, and specific details to bring all that together to form a story.
Thank you. One thing I want to encourage you guys, because this is a lot, right? Like, so first of all, if this is something you really want to work on, you can dig into podcasts, you can dig into books, you can dig into things like that. And also keep it simple, right? Like this is a lot, but really when you start doing this, it's going to feel awkward, just like our fitness journey. And the more you do it and try to wordsmith things, and we all have each other, right? Like how many times do we think about like, well, I want to send an invite, but I'm not really quite sure what to say. Like that's what we're for, right? To be able to kind of piece together, like, well, here's what she's saying about her goals. What can I do now? Why can't we do the same thing about our story, right? Like, why can't we do the same thing about, like, hey guys, this is a post I was thinking about. Could somebody look it over for me and see what you think, right? Or just go for it. Who cares? It's your social. Everybody's putting whatever they want on social media anyway, guys. Who cares? Talk about your bologna sandwich. So one thing that I wanted to throw in here as well is just thinking about how these should not be like the end all be all, right, of our social media. Like we're not just posting a bunch of deep, heavy stuff all the time, right? Like we know that. Like we're not just posting about our workouts all the time. We're not just posting about, the nutrition stuff all the time. We're sprinkling these things in and weaving them in to show them that we're not just like obsessed freaks, right? Well, we kind of are, but that we're also, willing and down to like be interested in other things. So thinking about ways that we can put these in there authentically a couple times a week, maybe like 2 to 3. But then also remembering that we can keep it light too, and those small moments posts that are following along in your tracker. And again, I have a tracker training, but if anybody else wants to just sit down and go through this, if this is something that appeals to you in the new year, I'd love to bring it back. But thinking about like lifestyle and engagement posts, there's 2 of them, and those have nothing to do really. They don't have to have anything to do with Beachbody, right? And then thinking about your product breadcrumb. I like your headband, Caitlin. Your product breadcrumb, and thinking about how you can kind of leave a little mystery, right? Your recruiting story, that doesn't have to have anything to do with the amount of coaches you have, the amount of coaches you want, the amount of coaches that you've never invited before. We can talk about ways to make those meaningful without sounding pushy, salesy, fill in the blank. All right. So we talked about that. So then we can talk about the next part, because what is everybody mostly afraid of? Inviting people, right? Because it seems weird, it seems awkward, and it seems like you're just jumping down their throat, especially in January. And you don't want to bug people because you want your business to grow, but you also don't want to lose friends over it, right? Posting these authentic storytelling, deeper meaning, and also sprinkling it on the fun and connecting with people on a real level leads you to track it. You're going to see who's paying attention to your stuff, right? Like you want to build up that street cred with your fitness journey, but you want to make friends and you want to connect with people in a real way. And you're going to track how it's going, who's tuning in. I have 1,100 Facebook friends, and I'm pretty sure the same 84 see my stuff all the time, but it's okay. Those 84 people adore me and they think it's really fun to watch everything that I do, right? You're going to follow along and see who's loving your stuff and who's vibing with you, right? And then you're going to connect with them. Very, very, very few invitations that I have in a week do I just say like, hey girlfriend, do you want to join my team? Right? I'll throw a couple of those in there if I'm really passionate about the person. I think they're super cool, or if they've been a challenger with us for a while. But for the most part, it's that conversation and that connection that leads to the invite, which is exhausting because it's back and forth a lot. But that's the only way we do it, and we make it real. And it's the only way that we're not sounding like those MLM people, right? Because we have something awesome to offer, and we shouldn't be ashamed to invite them to the party, but we don't want to make the party the only thing, right? Like we don't want to make it seem like we only want them for the party, and so that we can get that point and we can get that money, right? Like we want to genuinely get to know them, see how they're doing right now. There's a lot of people who are not only like rejuvenated on, like their focus, but they're also freaking miserable. I have had so many people commenting. I did like the "what are you working on controlling this month" post. People are like, oh my gosh, my eating, like my sugar, my caffeine intake, my stress level, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, I had no idea that they were suffering with this stuff, right? So as much as people are stressed about like the situation that they're in, they also want direction and they want to know what's going on. Okay. So post, track, connect, invite if it feels right, follow up. Okay. One thing that I wanted to put out there too, because I know a lot of people have a customer base and they've been doing this for a while. Coach Sherry taught me to go into my customers, monitor my business, customers, subscriptions. I have 7 people this month that are renewing with quarterly or annual unless I stop them and try to get them to do the challenge pack upgrade, right? They're just going to keep on keeping on, and they're just going to keep on that $99 cycle, which is probably fine. But I'd really like to try to get them to go all in, even just for the month, right? So pay attention to those subscription orders because they creep up. And it's a great time to just talk them through how this will not only give them the total solution and jumpstart things, but it's the best deal that they're going to have all year. If they want to buy Shakeology later, it's going to be way more expensive, right? So putting that out there. All right.
The
Go ahead.
other thought I want to add on to that too
Mhm.
is because challenge packs now include nutrition. So even if they're not interested in the Shakeology or the performance line, it's worth it to try it and get the 2 nutrition programs.
Amen. Amen. All right. What other things are we thinking about? Like I'm going to turn off the record soon. So I don't want people to I want to record what we want to record, but I don't need to record everything. So anybody else have anything to share out that they're noticing that's working for them, that they love about storytelling, connecting, inviting, all the things? Jesse.
So Sherry goes, you have a very serious face. Like, I'm trying to find something on my computer. So I have this list and it's like 70 journal prompts for self-discovery, and which sounds super serious, but at the same time, when you look at some of them, they're good. You can turn those questions into statements to be like capturing statement starters, like you were talking about Aaron's thing that you're like, what, and so anyway, I can put that into the chat thing, right? I'm gonna hit, well, can I just
So
put it
you
in the
can
Facebook
share it.
thing? Because
can-
I don't know how to get it into the Zoom right now because I'm on the one thing and then the computer's the other thing.
Right. And I'm afraid that we'll lose it if we put it over here. I'm going to,
I'll do it that way.
I might not. So when you copy and paste it from Zoom, where it only lets you, anyway, it's hard.
It's
So-
okay. I'm just gonna put the Facebook thing because I
Sure.
don't even because it's on the computer and then I'm on the Zoom. So I'll put it
Right.
onto the Facebook Messenger thing.
So when you just click file, you can easily upload it, but I'm not sure how
Yeah.
that carries over with the recording. So let's just put it all on the team page. That way we can circle back to it without having to dig through
Right.
the recordings. I think that's perfect.
Right.
Yay.
Right. Okay.
Does
Cool.
anybody else have any specific questions or wonderings or sharing about like the storytelling stuff? All right. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was trying to finish
Good.
chewing before I
Go
talked.
ahead.
I was gonna say I've learned that the more consistent I am about posting, the more engagement I get from more than y'all beautiful faces. I love y'all posting on my stuff, but it's really hard to sell Beachbody to Ashley.
Well, it's not hard to, but you're not going to get the commission, right?
Well, yeah, right. So I know personally I have to do better about being more consistent about posting.
Yeah, building that street cred, right?